It can be very easy in the UK to become cynical about American car culture. Stereotypes of big, heavy engines on big, heavy frames with no ability to turn a simple corner usually dominate the conversation. But just stop for a moment and watch.
Want to see something really exciting? The Aero GT.
Now we build excitement that you love to drive. Pontiac, we build excitement that you've got to try. Pontiac built.
Watch how these adverts show what American cars were really about. Without sounding too much like a bad ChatGPT response, they weren't just selling a car, they were selling a lifestyle. It wasn't about a vehicle or a mode of transport, it was about identity, about how you wanted to live your life. It's hard to think of a brand that encapsulated that idea more than Pontiac. Just look at these adverts and tell me they don't do more than show you the car or persuade you to buy it. No, looking at these adverts long enough will have you in a 10-gallon hat cruising down Route 66 in no time. Yet those adverts, and a sizable cult following, all that remain to remind people of the glory days for Pontiac. It has been 16 years since the final car rolled off the Pontiac production line. So, with 2026 being the 100th anniversary of their founding, it leaves us with a few questions. What made Pontiac so great? What caused their downfall? And what if we had the chance to bring them back? Join me in the first part of a brand new series where we're going to aim to do just that. In this episode, we'll be covering the history of Pontiac from beginning to end, while taking design cues from their greatest hits and recreating their classic designs.
You got it, Pontiac!
Then, in part 2, we'll be reimagining Pontiac as a modern car company and put the lessons from the past into action and create a brand new Pontiac for the modern age. But don't worry, Pontiac isn't the only company getting the business. We have 8 other defunct car makers waiting in the wing to be recreated and revived. If you think you can guess what might be coming up, leave it in the comments. Or, if you would love to see a particular brand be brought back from extinction, let me know. Let's get started. Pontiac was founded 100 years ago by General Motors. Originally it was meant to partner the more premium and expensive Oakland brand, which had already enjoyed success in the burgeoning markets of US car history. Like any good late entry to a group project though, Pontiac quickly became the more popular of the two and took on the mantle when Oakland was shelved by GM. If at this point you're wondering what General Motors is and which war he served in, well, we're not going to cover the history of GM in this video. That is a whole different video, and you'll find General Motors cropping up a lot in this rebuild. Anyway, Pontiac styled itself on the idea of affordable performance for the masses. Not as basic as Chevrolet, but not as luxurious as Cadillac, and enjoyed steady sales through the 1930s, 40s and into the 50s. That is when we reach 1955 and meet one of our Pontiac protagonists. This rather dashing-looking fellow, called Simon Knudsen, took over as general manager of Pontiac. He had a broad, simple vision that would come to define the brand.
The most beautiful thing on wheels, it's been called. That means your Pontiac will stand out among all other cars. You'll have a car you can take real pride in.
What if we made our cars sportier? What if we aimed it more at the young, up-and-coming generations that want a nice, fast car that they can actually afford without selling a kidney? Now admittedly, the first model introduced under his leadership, the Bonneville, didn't quite fit with the affordable part of that statement. Filled with all the luxuries and features a car could have at the time, Pontiac had put it in direct competition with Cadillac for premium comfort and luxurious driving. But what really set Pontiac apart from its other GM rivals? Nothing showed that so clearly as the Tempest.
It doesn't make much sense to spend your time driving one of those when you could be driving one of these, especially now during Pontiac's comparison sale.
Introduced in 1960, it was built on the same chassis as offerings from Buick and Oldsmobile, and yet there was an air of justified pride in itself. The wide-track design that Knudsen and his engineers, including John DeLorean of the DeLorean fame, coupled with a more compact design to make the car feel more alive, elevated it above its rivals. When the Le Mans spec of the Tempest came out, Pontiac was poised to become the name in American performance vehicles. Unfortunately, the Tempest was to be outdone, and another mid-sized 6.4-litre V8 monster was to not only supersede it, but also usher in the birth of the muscle car as many people know it today. Thankfully for our story, that creature, was another Pontiac, the GTO.
The special great one from Pontiac GTO.
Starting a trend that would define the American car industry through the 60s and beyond, Pontiac pushed the limits of what was possible in small car design, and the limits of what they were allowed by General Motors. By smashing through the glass ceiling of engine power limits, Pontiac had set off an arms race for the biggest engines in the smallest cars possible. The muscle car was here, and here to stay. Now I don't know about you, but when I do one thing I'm proud of, I can coast on that for a good long while before doing anything else. If I'd single-handedly changed the course of a whole industry and introduced what a car can be to the American people, I'd feel well within my rights to phone it in. Not Pontiac though. In 1967, they released this.
And find out how little it costs to fly home in a magnificent new Pontiac Firebird tonight.
Pontiac launched the Firebird to compete with the Ford Mustang. The Firebird, and later the Trans Am variants of it, would become some of the brand's most recognisable models and enjoy a huge cult following to this day. Pontiac were keen to cement themselves at the very top of American car industry and beyond. Nothing could stop them. Except it could. Emissions regulations, insurance costs, and the oil crisis began eroding the muscle car market. Pontiac certainly tried to adapt, but they started to lose that essence, that formula, that magic recipe that made cars like the GTO famous. People simply couldn't afford the luxury of a big V8 motor or enjoy the lifestyle it was designed for. The world was changing, and Pontiac had to change with it. Unfortunately, this meant Pontiac had to start badge engineering. Now, badge engineering is another topic which could be a whole video in itself. Essentially, platform sharing, the split of manufacturing power, and the costs of meddling from General Motors compelled Pontiac to start borrowing more from sister brands and lose their identity.
Pontiac announces the beginning of tomorrow. It begins in Firebird Esprit.
While the Firebird and Grand Prix were still popular models, with the Firebird in particular carrying on the legacy after starring in the hit TV show Knight Rider, the sun was setting on the golden age of Pontiac. This isn't to say Pontiac had forgotten how to make a good car, far from it. In 1984, the Fiero, a mid-engined coupe, actually helped boost Pontiac sales for the first time in years and encouraged a renewed push on research and development to get more technology into their cars. But GM continued to meddle. The world continued to change. In fact, in 1988, Pontiac was switched to predominantly front-wheel drive platform cars, a complete change from their formula. Now if you notice there, I said Pontiac was switched, not Pontiac chose to switch. It's like if someone took over a football club and decided that after one training session, it'd perform better if each player wore a pair of clown shoes. They just didn't know what to do with it. General Motors had signalled the end for Pontiac with one simple choice. Then we reached 1990, and this.
Load it up and have a ball. Pontiac transports got it all.
A minivan. A Pontiac minivan. Just as a quick reminder, this is what made Pontiac famous, and now this. Now to be clear, Pontiac was still making the Firebird at the same time as this, as if General Motors were giving them a box of Lego to crash around with while raising the guillotine behind them. So it can always have been worse. And then, it was. In 2002, the Firebird was discontinued. The last remnant of Pontiac's DNA and history was thrown out to pasture. The world held its breath to see what General Motors would replace one of the most iconic car names of all time with. The Pontiac Vibe. And the Aztec in 2003. The expression beating a dead horse really should have been updated to beating a dead Pontiac. Now, to be fair to General Motors, they did attempt somewhat of a revival of the Pontiac brand with some sportier models in the later years, such as the updated Pontiac GTO and the rear-wheel drive G8 sedan. Hang on. Those are both Holdens. Pontiac was now a reskin of an Australian car being exported to the US to be sold as Pontiacs. Once one of the best-selling brands in the US was now flogging someone else's car, which, ironically, took some of the best parts of old Pontiacs to be successful. In some ways then, when on January the 4th, 2010, the last Pontiac rolled off the production line, it may have come as a relief. The last car itself an indicator of how far wrong things had gone for Pontiac. a white Pontiac G6. Certainly not a terrible car in itself, but also not a great car. A nothing footnote on the bottom of car history. And that was it. Pontiac was shelved, while General Motors attempted to combat spiralling debts. So now we know a little more about Pontiac and we've seen some of their greatest hits, let's talk about recreating them. Now this is not going to be a one-to-one remake of a classic car, but more of a tribute act to some of the best. So if we look at some of the features on their cars, I'm focusing on the three big hitters: the GTO, the Firebird, and the Bonneville. Unfortunately, there isn't room in this design for the Aztec. I think the overall shape of the GTO is what we're going to be aiming for, very much a classic muscle car with a compact body and two-seat design. However, I really like the sloping front of the later models of Firebirds, and the sunken headlights in the Knight Rider fashion. Then the Bonneville, a bit of a bruiser compared to the two smaller models. However, the rear of the Bonneville really gives it a touch of class, so we're going to look at recreating the fins and the small rear lights as well. So, it will retain the basic shape of a muscle car, with a sloped front and fancy back. I'm sure nothing can go wrong with that design plan. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's looking good. Now the engine, the centrepiece for any good muscle car. Pontiac was famed for their use of beefy V8 engines, the GTO in particular going beyond what General Motors generally allowed. So we're going to do the same and slap a hefty slab of beef in there. We're going for a 6.4 litre V8, just like the original, which spat out around 325 angry horses. So, this recreation is just about finished. To keep things faithful to the original, we're going for a 4-speed transmission, a manual, an optional extra on the original car, stiff springs and a sizable sway bar with a big thick wheels to support it all. We're also going with the drum brakes and a limited slip diff. Again, all options on the original. There we go, Pontiac recreated. Now, time for testing.